sitting here with the granddaddy of our local metal scene, RoachZilla. These guys are one of my favorite to watch live. They have a fierce and loyal following, and it's obvious that the love they put into the community is reciprocated. They also provide me with some very awesome beltway driving therapy music. So thank you guys.
Absolutely.
They released their album Uppercut in December of last year. Welcome, Aaron, Kody, Chris, Mark. Thank you all for being here and
Thanks for having
taking
us.
the time to sit down and chat with me.
Appreciate you having us.
Already too many kind words.
Not at all, man. Not at all. I'm truly a fan, and the first time I saw you all, shame on me, was at last year's Roach Fest. That was the first time I saw you, and I was blown away, completely blown away by the festival, by you all's performance, what you brought, the energy that you brought, and how just watching the crowd. Yeah. How much they get into your music and your performance. And we'll talk a lot about, Roach Fest coming up and whatnot. But I want to start by asking, what were your musical upbringings like? Like, what was the music that made you want to make music?
I think it's different for everybody. So who wants to go first?
Everyone's saying to me. I grew up listening to Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin in my dad's work truck, and
Yeah?
I think that was the gateway drug too. I mean, because my dad grew up in the 70s, so that was like my gateway to everything. And as I grew older, I started hearing stuff like Metallica on the radio, and I was like, who the hell is that? Like, as a little kid, because it's like, as a little kid, sometimes you have that anger and you want to let it out, so that's how I got into it. And Metallica was that gateway to metal, and here I am today. So,
But you like Jason Newsted and Metallica.
yeah, Jason. Well, I remember watching live shit, Binge and Purge, and seeing Jason Newsted play. I'm a finger player. I like Cliff Burton, but
Yeah.
the guy who got me into bass, I have to give credit to Jason Newsted. Just watching his energy on stage and just the fucking helicopter thing, man.
Absolutely.
That was so cool. But yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. I discovered Metallica, I was in elementary school, Master of Puppets.
Oh yes.
And I had a good friend, we're still friends, a good friend of mine was like, when And Justice for All came out, he was like, he made me a copy, and he's like, you have to hear this.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's one of my favorite albums to this day. One of my favorite
Classic.
albums.
It's definitely one of the top ones.
Yeah.
Like
Even then they turn the bass down on it, still sounds good.
And it just makes it easier for people like me to play
made
along.
a version
Right?
on YouTube where the
do whatever
bass
you
is
wanna
turned
do.
up or
Right.
something, but
Yeah. Well, they also fixed Lars' snare.
yeah,
when
sounds like doo-doo.
For me, when I was growing up, I used to listen to a lot of hip hop music.
Okay.
I'm real into Pink Floyd. I love Pink Floyd. People like the People Under the Stairs, Tribe.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like old school Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, everything like that. I like the classics, and I like a lot of storytelling kind of music.
Excellent.
I listen to metal and everything like that. I like a lot of hardcore bands and stuff. But other than that, it's just I stick to a lot of storytelling. If they have a good message in their lyrics and everything like that, that's what I enjoy listening to.
So you posted something not too long ago that kind of struck me, where you said, I'm the metal guy, but that doesn't mean that metal is that I live the metal life 24/7. And Jay and I have this conversation a lot, how because we'll go to see bands like Ministry and Skinny Puppy.
Right.
And Nine Inch Nails is one of my favorites, right?
Yes.
And I just listened to Trent Reznor. He did a podcast with Rick Rubin, and he was talking about how Prince, how much he admired Prince, and he was listening.
I love Prince, man.
Right.
Like,
And it's like, just because you do a certain style of music doesn't mean that you eat, breathe that style of music.
Yeah.
And we talk about how the kids that go to the shows and they're all painted, and that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like Al Jurgensen's aren't going out like that every day, like they're playing a show every day, right?
But if you're going to Ministry, I can definitely see why people would be doing up their face paint and everything like that, war paint out there for it.
Absolutely.
Like, definitely in like the music that we play, everything like that. Yeah, we play with a lot of metal bands. We associate with a lot of metal bands.
I guess
and everything.
when you say like what got you into the music, automatically I think about metal music.
Yeah.
But I had 3 sisters, and growing up, man, they were listening to all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Man.
I had an older sister. I put on some Spice Girls. I will sing
right on.
lyrics.
Yeah.
Like,
If you
no
want to be
problem
my
at all.
lover.
So yeah, that post, it's like when you said I love Pink Floyd, it's one of my favorite bands, I was like,
Yeah.
right on, Aaron, absolutely.
Tattooed it all
Oh
up.
yeah, look at that.
Look,
got a
money
pig.
pig,
Oh,
money
yeah.
pig back
Got the
here.
marching hammers
Time, all that.
That's
So,
awesome. Did you see mine? Wish you were here.
Oh, beautiful.
Awesome.
See,
Yeah, it's you know, especially in the metal community or people who don't listen to metal,
Yeah.
they look at metal bands like you're just one type of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
there
people-
is like
people
that
would probably-
stereotype of like a lot of the extreme like gatekeeper type of metalheads. That's like they kind of can be like
Yeah.
that, where it's like metal all the time,
The purist.
only the
Yeah,
most
the purist.
underground. You
People
know?
that will watch your
But they think everyone's
podcast
like
when you
that.
ask us, who is your influence? It's like Baby Annihilator, you know, and it's like
Baby Killer.
yeah,
Dying fetus.
They
yeah,
rip them.
dying
They
fetus,
rip them.
stuff like that. But
I mean,
when it comes down to it,
Male represent.
I love all kinds of
Yeah,
music.
sure.
If somebody
Three
creates
piece.
music, there's a message behind it. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, there is some stripes. Like, you got to be like good, I guess.
Yeah.
When you're listening to it, but
Absolutely.
there's so many different kinds. But
Right on.
what
Yeah.
about you, Chainsaw?
Musically,
I'm not Chainsaw.
I guess the first band I can remember really like digging into was like the Chili Peppers. Kind of struck me first. Kind of just noticing that, you know, I'm liking all these songs and I'm like, all right, it's the same band. You know, hearing them on the radio a lot. And as a kid, I feel like the radio used to be a lot more of a big deal between just like driving around. Radio was
That's
always
true as
on.
well.
I
Yeah.
think that was probably a big inspiration, like subconsciously growing up, listening to just what my parents always listened to in the car. A lot of classic rock radio, modern rock, and really just everything in between that. But Chili Peppers kind of grabbed my interest first, and especially with their versatility. And it seems like especially with them, now they got John Frusciante back in the band. That's one of my biggest influences,
Oh, very good.
guitar-wise. And Flea was a huge inspiration early on because I actually started on bass. But just the versatility of their influence and letting it all kind of be on their sleeves, they can do, you know, whatever they want kind of, and it just feels like them. And that's kind of the same approach I like to take with us. That's why I kind of came up with the Old Bay Metal slogan.
Yeah.
That was
where-
you.
That it was.
Yeah,
Excellent.
kind of off the top of my head, but
Very
and he
cool.
came out of nowhere with it. I was
yeah,
like,
I was
this.
like, if they ask you what we
We're
are,
like, oh, that's the album name.
Yeah.
that's what we are. I went with that too for the demo,
yeah.
but
So have you heard John Frusciante's solo stuff?
I have, yeah.
It's fantastic.
It's definitely unique, and just I don't know, give you more of an inside look of how his mind works, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
without all the other input with the Chili Peppers, how they all write together, but. Yeah, just the versatility of it, and yeah, the Old Bay Metal thing to apply that tag. A lot of people might call themselves a thrash band or death metal, but I wanted to be able to incorporate as much as we wanted and still
Whatever
be
we
like,
wanted
this
to
is
be.
RoachZilla, because I do like a lot of heavy music has ultimately become my favorite genre,
Sure.
even still to this day, but which kind of from bands like Metallica and the Big Four of thrash and Pantera is still kind of, I list them as my favorite band.
Yeah.
Favorite band. They kind of give me, kind of struck that chord with me to be like, this is what I want to do. Like with the way they approached it throughout their like 90s era and up to reinventing the steel era.
That's awesome.
Just the way they kind of defied the norms of the grunge era and all that. Just did what they wanted and rode that metal flag when metal was kind of at a weird point.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but-
it's cool because you brought up one of my other favorite bands, Pantera, and you know, growing up, I mean, I'm listening to Testament and
Yeah.
Megadeth and Slayer, you know, but then Pantera comes in.
And it's
I mean,
a whole different
Right,
groove.
So
right.
different.
Cowboys from
Yeah.
Hell. It was
Yeah.
still pretty, you know, thrashy. But
Oh,
then
yeah.
when Vulgar Display of Power came
Right.
out,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's me. That's
Yeah.
me. I love
Right.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know they kind of get some heat nowadays, but I try to kind of separate what the music brought to me.
Right.
And what that guitar playing has inspired me to do, and I wouldn't be doing it without that.
Sure.
So I kind of have to give some credit to Dime and those guys to what they did.
It
Yeah.
shows.
How they also blended their influences into their sound so much. So
Yeah, I kind of feel like Phil kind of
yeah, he kind of
lost something. I don't know.
Because it's like, even when you listen back to those lyrics before, it's a lot about, like on Vulgar too, a lot about, I think, unification and
right.
Yeah.
you know, I think he took a lot of like hardcore influence in those times. It seemed like he was going for that like Black Flag, like the way he looked back then and everything, and the messaging of a lot of those lyrics seemed like it was more about like bringing the scene together, killing all the, you know, things that used to divide the scenes between punk and metal and all that. And, but I don't know where it changed, but
Yeah.
Very
you know.
true.
But that was kind of my biggest influences coming up, and you know, started on bass, took lessons, picked up guitar a couple years later, self-taught my cell phone guitar, and been going ever since then, nonstop.
Awesome.
What about you, Uncle Slam?
Uncle Slam.
Yeah,
He didn't put his American overalls on,
Yeah,
American
no,
flag
I
overalls.
did.
I told him
Overalls
earlier.
today.
I did.
I haven't even
I
worn
said,
them,
show up in
showing.
American
Punked out.
overalls.
Yeah.
Again.
Go home and
I
get
might
dressed
have-
and
I
come
might
back.
have- Maybe I got too fat for them. It's been a while since I wore them, so, you know.
So
Whatever.
who?
Sorry.
You're
So,
in that hot meal
I'm
truck
sorry,
all
man.
day.
I didn't realize you may have gotten too fat.
Yeah.
so Chris, what was the music that made you want to make music?
Yeah, you know, pretty similar to, like, you know, everybody else. Like classic rock, what my parents listened to when I was a kid. You know, I loved classic rock. I still do. You know, I'm still finding a lot of like classic rock I've never heard before, and it's like, man, where's this song been all my life?
Right.
Yeah.
This
There's
came
so
out
much
how
out
long
there.
ago, and I've never heard it. You know, I don't know.
Right.
There's a lot of
So
like
much
deep cuts
music.
that like don't come on the radio.
Right.
Weren't on the radio when I was a kid.
Right.
That my parents didn't listen to.
And they
It's
only
like,
play
there's
the
a lot of
hits.
good music there. So I got like a playlist on Spotify. It's got like 2,000 songs, just classic rock. But anyways, yeah, I love that stuff. And then I met this guy in middle school. He introduced me to Metallica, metal, like Megadeth, stuff like that. And we started a band. We've been playing together since 7th grade. You know.
Oh, wow.
She'll get to those questions in a little bit.
Oh well.
I know y'all are getting. It's like I just.
I'm sorry.
I'm just
I get
gonna walk
sidetracked.
upstairs
I got,
and-
like ADD brain, but you know. Yeah.
It's all
We'll just
right. It's
answer
quite all
everything.
right.
Metal.
She'll chop it up.
Metallica,
in
all
a,
that
in a
stuff.
couple questions,
Pantera.
how did y'all come together? And it's like,
Okay, well, we'll
Well,
get back
we'll
to
go
that, I
back.
guess. Sorry. I have
No,
ADD
don't
brain,
apologize.
my
It's
bad.
good.
Pump the brakes.
perfectly fine.
Now I lost what I was talking about, but yeah, metal's cool. Now we're here.
Here we are.
I ain't gonna lie, I be rocking out to some like late '90s country,
Yeah.
some Shania.
Hey, I get down
Really?
to some
Yeah.
90s
Well,
country.
I mean, you
Yeah,
guys
the
were
old
doing-
outlaw
That
country.
one,
Yeah,
yeah.
love that
You guys
stuff.
were doing Shania Twain.
We did, yeah.
You know, and I was like,
Yeah.
how do these guys know Shania Twain?
Yes.
Do that. Oh,
Like
last
90s
me,
kids.
that was also like I
Yeah.
grew up in a country household.
Okay.
Like my mom loved country,
Okay.
and she was definitely like back in the day. She, you know, like there was old VHS tapes seeing her watching like Headbangers Ball and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was my show.
But like all I knew was like she loves Bon Jovi and she loves country.
Yeah.
And you know, so I was always on the radio in
That's
the
like-
house.
Two extremes, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Musically, sonically,
Yeah,
yes.
pretty
but,
much.
But I mean, you know, that's the beauty about music. That
Some Garth
we-
Brooks.
Right. We all
Yeah.
we experience these things and we put it out, and we're all basically experiencing some of the same things,
Yeah,
right?
most certainly.
It's just you do a country song and you do a metal song.
Yeah.
That's
Our country album's coming, so.
Is it?
Yeah.
right on.
So
I wish.
we're
Old
doing-
Bay Country.
Yeah.
Old Bay Country. Hey,
Yeah,
you're on
Old
something
Bay
already.
Country there.
Yeah.
Let's trademark that. Let me write a note.
Write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to these days.
Yeah, right.
Copyright.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're getting to when did you start playing music and how? Like what? Why did you? Let's start with you, Chris. Why did you gravitate toward the drums?
Because I couldn't play anything else. I think I
Fair
tried.
enough.
I think I tried to pick up the guitar. Like all my other family members, my brother, my sister, my dad, even
They're-
my mom can pluck a few notes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they all play.
I can all play. My sister is really good at piano. I couldn't do any of that shit. I tried it. Like I think I even took a few lessons, and I was like, this ain't for me.
Right.
And then they went and bought me like a $50 drum set from a thrift shop or something. It's like a shitty little CB
This
was
man
like half-
set his drum set up and he could already play.
Yeah.
I am not shitting.
Really?
Yes.
Some are born
Yeah,
with
it was
rhythm,
Yeah.
some are not.
That's
He's he's the one of the only people I know who's a natural born musician who can get on an instrument. Like when we first started playing, I was like, dude, how do you know drums? How long have you been playing drums?
This is my first time.
my first time, man. Like,
natural born metronome, huh?
well, literally, like I want to say
Yeah.
like 2 weeks. Didn't you say it was like
I
2
picked
weeks?
it up pretty fast. I mean, I wasn't like
It's crazy.
I
Like,
wasn't like a child prodigy by any means, but I could hold a beat.
but how many people can?
Some people can't.
Yeah.
How many people can get back there and be like,
Yeah.
do what you did, man? It's crazy.
Appreciate that.
How about you, Mark?
I started music with getting in chorus in elementary school.
Okay.
Mm.
So it was like one of those things where you want to get out of class early.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I did chorus from like kindergarten all the way up to about 8th grade, and we did like the national anthem for like the Baltimore Orioles games.
cool.
Yeah, there was like a
Yeah.
lot of. So I was like
I remember him telling
on
me
a
that
stage like early on, and I think a lot of this has to do with like, because if I look at myself now and I'm like, I could never do this, get on a stage in front of all these people, and you know, unless I had all that experience
Yeah.
you know,
Sure.
from back then.
But certainly.
But yeah, after that, I got into playing bass probably around 13, 14. I would sit in front of my, I had this big giant ass boombox, and I would plug my headphones up to it, and my sister had gotten me Slipknot, what is it, the live album, I can't remember what it's called. 9.0, yeah. But I picked up 2 pencils, and I remember playing beats on these books to Slipknot, and like, my sister's boyfriend at the time came in and he handed me these drumsticks. He's like, here you go, this is probably better to beat on your books with. But I don't know why I picked up bass. Oh, I do, just because of Jason Newsted. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I went from drums to bass like that, why my interest was changed, but I think it's because I couldn't make all the noise in the house that I wanted to. My parents would probably get
Yeah.
pissed off about that. Plus, I lived with I had 4 other siblings,
Okay.
so it just annoyed them. But yeah, I played bass from about 13, 14 years old with him, and we got in a band, and
We've been in a few bands.
we had a band with 2 bass players.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I was in middle school.
So did,
and like,
so did Kody.
yeah.
For a time.
Yeah, because my buddy Daniel got into playing the same time I did, and we were like, well, fuck, man, we can't have, we don't have a guitar player.
We
Let's
would just jam. And we had 2 bassists and 1 guitar player.
It's very
So it is a
spinal
unique element.
spinal tapish of you all.
Yeah. This one goes to 11.
But yeah, that's about it. I've just
Did
been
you
playing.
did you
about
take lessons or did you teach?
Very few lessons. I remember being in high school. I'd already been playing for like 6 years, 7 years, and I was like, "Hey, Dad, I want to get lessons because I want to know the music theory behind
Sure.
all this." And the first guy I went to, I want to say I was with him for maybe 2 months, but he wouldn't teach me any theory. He would just sit me down and learn me Whitesnake, and I'm like, "Okay, I mean that's cool, but when are we going to get to the, you know?"
I'm not here for that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then there was another guy. His name was Neil. Can't remember the shop. It was over in where is that shopping center? Where the Harris Teeter is now. There
Yeah.
used to be like a
Nando's?
no. It was the Hollywood shopping center. There was a music
Yeah,
shop in there. And the
Wildwood.
dude was a crazy bass player, and at the time I was like going through like a bad time in high school, and I was failing Spanish class really bad. And my dad was like, "If you don't pick your grades up, I'm taking you out of bass lessons." And it's like just the wrong time, wrong place. I took maybe 4 lessons from the guy, and I really regret not going for. But yeah, other than that, no lessons or anything. I just play by ear. I just sat down and played all my favorite songs that I could learn. And that was before the time where tabs were like available. Like you could
Right,
go
yeah.
online
Print
and
out,
you can print out the
like,
tabs, and most
Yeah.
people were wrong. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not right.
Someone
that doesn't
with
sound
ultimate
right to me.
guitar
Right.
and you're like,
You gotta
this
find the
ain't
one with the right
possible.
reviews.
Right.
everything.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of just playing by ear. It was fun to me. That's what I did. Just sat in my room, played along to.
I
music I
would go
liked.
to my I grew up in California, so I would go to my local music store, and I remember when the Black Album, when the guitar book came out,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, and
Yep.
I bought it, and I got home, and I was like, well, shit, I'm not playing this.
It's a lot of knowledge in one area.
Yeah. Kirk Hammett is one of my favorite guitarists, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not playing any of this. I still have the book too.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
Kody, when did you start playing and how?
I think like 13ish. I started on bass. Well, before, I guess the original instrument I played was clarinet. I played in band class, middle school days, but I wouldn't really count it because I never really kind of fell in love with that instrument the way I did.
No, but it taught you, gave you a structure, right?
It did
taught you
start
something.
me, yeah. It was kind of like I had one teacher there that was kind of cool, and then he left, and the next guy took over, and I kept taking band for the class credit, but the new guy didn't really hold my interest, which I feel like it's hard sometimes to teach kids music because it can get kind of bland if you don't give it to them in an interesting kind of way. But I really kind of was interested in percussion, and that kind of wasn't going to work. So I kind of was like, well, everybody's playing guitar, everybody and their mom's got like a Squire or a Warlocks, collecting dust in the closet. Yeah. So it's like, let me start on bass.
Collecting dust in the basement.
You have a Warlock?
I do, yeah.
Yeah?
It's the one that I plan on like redoing it, like refinishing.
Yeah, it's going to be the coolest Warlock ever.
But,
awesome.
I just kind of figured I'd start on bass. And I was more inspired too at the time. I mentioned Flea and the Chili Peppers earlier. Metallica, Cliff Burton was big for me. The Kill 'Em All album. Yeah. Like I remember learning the Anesthesia part. Like I printed out everything and learned it start to finish at one point. But
right on.
I still remember some of it because of how much I drilled it into my brain.
Yeah.
But just seeing his energy live and how he played thrash and extreme metal with finger picking, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be able to be in like a thrash metal band, playing bass, finger pick style, bring that kind of energy, bring that extra layer to the instrument that you want to where it, it's more identifiable in the music. And so I started there. I took lessons for about 3 years maybe. On bass. I picked up guitar around 15, maybe like 2 years into playing bass, and I always kind of picked up and fiddled with it, but kind of taught myself that based on like the muscle memory I had learned already from bass playing, and kind of printing out, looking at tabs and trying to learn some stuff by ear, and just learning my favorite band's riffs and stuff at the time, because I really was inspired to try to get a band together a lot by kind of what these guys were doing back in the day in the music scene. Like them and a lot of the guys a grade or two ahead of me had a lot of stuff going on with like local community center shows, which they might talk about that later. But that really inspired me, just having all that like right next to me and not like looking at it far away like a big high ticket band. It's like, this is an attainable thing. It's happening in my town. Exactly. But I never really got to establish a band back then, so I just focused on practicing because nobody that I ever got into would take it seriously, and I didn't probably have the confidence that I do now to kind of speak and put more input into a band, as a leader a little bit more. But so I just kind of worked on learning every moment I could. If I wasn't hanging out with my friends, I was picking up a guitar, picking up a bass, or just looking for new music that I haven't heard to inspire me, a new band, a new album. I used to just keep notebooks full of nothing but bands and songs.
I've seen these notebooks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're just like, here's the band, here's the song they wrote down.
Yeah.
I guess the backlog for later.
Yeah.
Right on.
Used to go through MySpace looking for bands like As Blood Runs Black. I found that, and this era of metal really inspired me too. They're really melodic and heavy. I don't know how to really personally describe it, but just something about that timeline of music and metal at the time I think was really doing good in terms of successfully as a community. It seemed like there's a lot of big bands coming up, and things like Mayhem Festival were really big. And
I feel like like you talk about community and how it was accessible to you at a young age, and I feel like I'm not going to say absolutely of all the genres, but I feel like of all the genres, the metal community is like, we're doing things, right? We're doing things, we're putting on shows, we don't care what anybody says, anybody thinks. You find a way, backyards, whatever.
Like it definitely, in the past probably 6 years, you definitely seen in like Southern Maryland itself, not so much into like Charles County, but like St. Mary's and Calvert. There has been some things through Charles County, but I think back in the day when they shut down like my brother's place and Memories and stuff like that, there hasn't really been much. You got ape hangers up there, but I don't think they really welcome original music of any sort. I think it's just cover whatever it can get, people boogieing their hips and dancing,
Right.
and whatever.
But you find a way, right?
Yeah. Like I've always told people since my eyes were open into our community, well, where we grew up, like over in the Ranch Club in Lusby, Maryland, and everything like that. There was just out of nowhere, you're having local shows at a community center down there, and it's wild the amount of bands that came through there, because it was like every 2 weeks there's just a local community show put on by YMCA or whatever.
Fred Heather.
Yeah.
That guy gets a lot of
Power
shit.
Jam,
But
Power Jam Music Alliance.
PJMA.
He gets a lot of shit, but he
YMCA
opened the door, man.
But
He did.
And there's a lot of people that have strife, and there's definitely a lot of stories in the background about
funny stories.
nature.
Yeah.
But at that time, he was putting on shows and giving kids opportunities.
Yeah.
Right.
To sit there, like Kody said, back in the day, I was struggling to find a band to play with when we were younger and shit like that. And that's where later on in life, that's why.
Yeah, he did what, like Battle of Bands, and whoever won the Battle of Bands, you got one free song recorded in his basement studio. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
And he did like the Park Rock Fest
Park
and all
Rock,
that
yeah.
around here. So usually around like when I was like 12, 13 years old, and that's when y'all came later on and everything. A lot of people, like in our crews, you have Joe and Glendar Mafalski that like they were playing those shows back in the day. Like
Stayed
they
full
were
circle from back then till now.
these are all cats that we've known for like 20 years now. Like close to 20 years. I'm going to say 16, 17 years.
Say Joe just,
And,
on a side note, just bought an amp back from Mark that he used to play from back in those days that he just now got back, that's been in the circle of us the entire
just
time.
keeps getting passed around, I guess.
And
Back
it
Defender
just
Street.
wild because like I tell
Heroes
people all the
Day.
time, Southern Maryland is a very musical tri-county.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And like a lot of times when we travel out and play in different shows, different places and stuff like that, you talk to people and then they're like, oh, you're from Maryland, and it's like, oh, Baltimore, or close to DC. They might know Frederick and stuff like that, and I'm like, we are Southern Maryland.
Yeah.
Like we're down here in the basement of Maryland over here.
Yeah.
And and when you talk to Northern Maryland bands, they're like, they don't even know where you're at either. I'm like, the southest part of Maryland.
Right.
Like you go south and go even deeper.
farther.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
And it's just we grew up as teenagers, experienced shows. Like I remember watching them on stage playing back in the day, and like all my friends, all the people that we work with and everything like that put up our stages, everything like that, I've seen them on stages for years ago.
Yeah.
But
But when did you start playing music?
I think I started playing when I was about 12 years old.
Okay.
My mom had a J.C. Penney's catalog, and I saw a guitar in there, and I still have that guitar to this day.
Yeah.
It's a little J. Tercer Stratocaster, and it's kind of beat to hell, but I still bring it out to shows to play sometimes. Even if it's just my backup guitar in case I break a string.
If it wasn't beat to hell, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Right. I was thinking
Gives
that.
a character.
So like before I picked up guitar, I was in chorus for probably about 7 years. I did
In school?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did like the big concert events and stuff where they would put you into like, I guess their honor of chorus, and did a lot of concerts for that and everything, and then I picked up a guitar, and then it was like kind of all downhill from there.
How old were you when you picked up the guitar?
About 12 years old.
Okay.
So I picked up a guitar. I was playing that for a couple years. And then I picked up bass. I picked up drums. Picked up keyboards. I picked up rapping. I picked up
Wow.
a whole bunch. And I've always kind of been, you know, a tinkerer of music.
Okay.
Like, I like to just get my hands in whatever makes music, pretty much.
And when did you learn that, like, you could just scream the way that you scream?
Yeah, that's a good question.
When we started the band.
When we started the band,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Because
There'd be-
I envy that man.
Like,
I really do.
I've never been in a band where I have screamed into a microphone until this band.
Okay.
So I guess that speaks on it. There'd be driving in the car, I'll listen to a song, they have a scream part or something like that, where I would scream along with it, and I'm like, okay, I can kind of hit this, you know. But I've never pursued it the way that I do, like, with us. So.
Right. And how did you all meet each other? I mean, I know you probably
Yeah.
saw each other
Yeah, we used
playing
to
in
all
different bands,
in,
right?
In our band, and he played like back at the community center days. We had our band. He had his band.
Like, me and Mark
Kody
were in the same school grade
we all-
together because
Okay.
I failed
Yeah,
here.
he's just there.
So
Cody was there.
I
I
met him
failed
in
the 8th
6th
grade, so
Yeah.
I was back in their school grade.
Yeah. So
I think I met
we've
you
been in
two,
the same circles for
Yeah.
Andy
years.
Shirtle or whoever.
Yeah.
Justin.
And, like, I used to play back in a band, and this goes, like, Hail False Heroes is what they were called. And I played guitar with them for a little while until, do you know John Kincaid at all?
What does that
He
name
plays
sound
with the
familiar?
band The Revival.
He used to be in Hydrofex years ago.
Yeah, okay.
He's played with a lot of bands around here and everything. He came in to practice with them one night, and I was not up to par whatsoever. And he's a magnificent guitarist, and he took over that whole band, and then he joined up in there, and he was kind of the young cat of the group.
I got so much hazing from those
Yes.
guys, dude. Like, they treated me like shit.
But it went on from there to where, you know, he started doing his own thrash bands and everything, to where they had a band called Maelstrom. That did you have the other name Incision before or
Yeah,
after?
Incision was after. He
So-
changed it.
So Maelstrom, we figured out, was taken by someone else. 'Cause
Yeah.
we're kids, so we don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But we changed it to Incision after a while, and it was all the same shit. I mean, we just
Let
changed
me
the
get a
name.
spot of that static.
We had our own music for kids. I thought that was pretty damn good. Like, we got that, like I was telling you before, the Battle of the Bands,
Sure.
where we won that slot to get our song recorded. We actually recorded our first song. It's called No Excuses. It was super
hear the
thrashy, just super fast stuff. Like, that's what, you know, him and I were into back in the day.
Yeah.
So.
And when did you bring Kody into that, to what is now RoachZilla?
Cody's like
We kind of started the
This goes into another lore.
yeah,
So
So many bands.
side quests,
So many bands.
adventures.
yeah, so many side quests and adventures. So back in 2016, I had a complete reverse of my life, and I started searching for a band because I was like, I want to start playing in a band and getting back into music and everything, because I took 7 years away from it. And at that point in time, Kody was in a band called Black Rose, and this is about the late 2016 throughout 2017. They were an established band that was around from 2013,
Yeah,
and
I wasn't an original member of that.
yeah, Kody joined up with them. I known Kody because he used to see him in school, obviously. But Kody also played in a band called Blunt Force Rebellion. He was playing bass in it. I was like, if you're playing with that band, because that band was like
Yeah.
very
fun
good
band.
band.
Yeah,
How were they?
They have
kick
a
ass.
they have an EP on YouTube.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
send you
still
the
out
link.
there.
Okay.
If you wanna check that.
But he was playing bass with them, and I knew that he had exactly what I was pretty much looking for. I came in and played guitar with them as he was on guitar, and me and him started chopping up riffs
Okay.
and everything of that mix. And ever since then, we would have practice with them, and then me and Kody be in the driveway for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just as they're in the house chilling, and we're talking about doing stuff like this. So this is what we wanted out of our musical journey.
So
Okay.
they kind of found us.
Okay.
It was kind of him, and then he was like, he knew me, of course, and
Yeah, Mark was actually, he was over in Poland for a while, and then he had just
my
gotten
wife's
back in
from
the States.
Poland, so I was
And,
over there living.
And like they were like asking me if I wanted to play drums, and I was like, we need a bassist
'Cause we
So
knew
I was
he-
like, well, Mark's
he
back
got
in
the
the
chops.
States, so let's all get together and jam, see how it goes. And now here we are.
I
Right
was
on.
not thinking that I was going to be in this band.
Yeah.
Like, they probably don't know this, but
Yeah?
I was not keen on being in a band at that time. And I
Yeah.
was like, I had taken some time away from playing
Well,
bass.
You were about to jam with
Yeah, we jammed with John
Well,
Kincaid a
we
little
were,
bit too.
but
yeah.
yeah, he was wanting to play
Yeah.
covers, and it was like not something I was. But I was like, yeah, I'll jam with him a few times, and I'll let that
here
be
we
that.
are 4 years later.
Yeah, but
When-
that's how that went.
So-
He asked me to come in. I was like, sure, I'll jam with you guys a few times, and here we are.
And so I would imagine that the metal scene in Poland was pretty rich too, right?
I see. Now, when I was there, I didn't. I had taken he took time away. I took time away too. I was
Okay.
like trying to focus on a different aspect of my life, I guess, at the time, not knowing the language there. Like obviously my wife does. I didn't go out and try to find stuff. I just
Okay.
I was kind of like a hermit. It's like
Yeah.
one of them type of things. So I was like smack dab in
Yeah,
the
fish
middle
out of water.
in the middle of Warsaw. But I mean, people knew English, but I didn't go out trying to find anything. But
Okay.
that's I guess
Right.
confession there.
Yeah, I kind of got rolling after high school in like official bands, but my first one was Blunt Force Rebellion.
Uh-huh.
Our buddy John Wayne, Dubsack Duke,
John
Stone
Wayne.
Brew.
Hi, John.
He kind of
Hey,
gave me
John.
that opportunity where I was trying to jam with guys. I kind of jammed with some friends here and there and tried out for a couple bands, which was actually releasing my Demons, which is that Roach Fest as a band I tried out for, but I was like 19 or so. I was still
dude had
young
some
and
Judas Priest
earning my
vibes.
stripes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think maybe they still kind of had. I was still like working on getting my driver's license and everything. So still, trying to get my life rolling and start getting in bands because that was the route I wanted to go in.
Yeah.
So John Wayne gave me that chance. I used to work with an ex of his at Food Lion in Lusby. So that's kind of how I got to know him. He actually picked me up a couple times because I used to walk to work back then or skateboard or whatever. And,
Yeah.
he would pick me up here every once in a while and just be like, we would talk music. I told him I was jamming with a guy, but it wasn't really serious. Couldn't get it going anywhere. And he hit me up one day like, do you know anybody looking? I'm like, yeah, me. So
I'm that dude.
that turned into Blunt Force Rebellion, which that music's still out there to find. That EP we did.
Nuts
then
and neck bolts.
When that band unfortunately went our separate ways, I took a little bit of time there, and some time went by. I didn't really have anything going on. I was going through some heavy stuff and looking for change. I was missing playing in music, and that was the only time I haven't been in a band in the last like 10 years. Is that like couple months in between Blunt Force Rebellion and Stone Brew. And I started up with them because I knew him and Chris from Coast is Clear, who I play bass with now. Because of that, I ended up filling in shows for them. So then I was in 2 bands playing bass. Wanted to play guitar in a band. Finally felt confident enough. That's where Black Rose came in. Coast played a show with them. And then they had just split ways with a guitar player, so that kind of opened a branch for me to do that. And that led to me ultimately meeting Aaron. And then, we wanted to take it and do something bigger, and that's RoachZilla. So here we are now.
Here we are.
So.
Hi, we're RoachZilla, and it's a great honor to be here at Southern Maryland Music Scene. And this first song is a little song we call The New Breed. that like one of the heaviest stuff y'all had in the basement so far?
On that note, where'd the name come from?
That's
Who came up with the name and where'd it
That's
come
all
from?
Aaron right there. Yeah.
He's famous for the story.
Well, it's a question we get asked a lot.
I'm
certainly. So a lot of people, they're like, okay, y'all are just some probably metalheads, and y'all are like, let's put stuff together, and it's like a big monster kind of thing. As many people probably well know, I have 14 cats in my house. But there is the original cat, and she is 13 years old. Her name is Zilla.
Okay.
Also at the time, I had a goldfish that we named Roach because he was about 5 years old at that time.
Oh, wow. A 5-year-old goldfish?
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
Resilient.
shit, dude.
He lived till he was 7.
That was
What?
a big ass goldfish too.
Yeah. And
a tank that was like never changed.
Was he from the carnival?
yeah.
That's probably why he lived that long.
So-
due to the environment.
Survivor.
Yeah.
There was a point in time where I had a fish tank. There was probably about 8 different fish in there, and the filter died.
Okay.
And I didn't have the money to fix it at first, and I feel bad about this. But there was one day we came home, and there was probably about 5 fish gone.
Oh, no.
The next day we come home, and there's the other 2 gone, and there's just 1 fish left.
Roach.
And it was
That's my
Roach.
boy Roach right there.
Wow.
And
There can only be one.
Heck,
I didn't know.
Exactly.
I didn't know how long
Weaklings.
he would be still there. And the tank got.
Gnarly.
Dude, you know,
Yeah.
if you probably actually changed the water, he would have probably died.
Probably.
Well, we
Yeah.
still like added a cup of water because water does evaporate. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
in a fish tank, it was kind of going down a little bit, and we would add a little water to them. But it kind of became like a self-sustained pond
Yeah.
that I had in the house, and
What a trooper.
we
man.
even when we moved.
Inspirational.
Like, we moved down into the house that we live in now,
Uh-huh.
and we brought him with us.
Wow.
And still in that tank,
Holy
and
shit,
he
dude.
lived
He lived a
2
long
more
time.
years. He died last year.
Oh, my God.
Yes. And
Rest
So-
in peace, Roach.
Press F.
there was definitely
Respect.
the
Yeah,
night that it
respect.
came together.
Definitely had a
Me and Kody were at my apartment, which is not far from here. It was
Uh-huh.
right where the Oriental Market in Infantina used
Yeah.
to be.
Yep.
I lived in an apartment right next to it.
Okay.
I lived there for 8 years. Very much herbal remedies that
Uh-huh.
we were
brainstorming.
partaking in that evening,
Uh-huh.
and brainstorming names, and Zilla, Roach, RoachZilla.
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
dang it.
So,
Take the names, and that's a band name.
and now I kind of see the benefits of it nowadays. There's plenty of bands out there that like,
Yeah, that was another
If you-
thing. Nobody else has, you know.
yeah,
It's
there's
hard to
It
sometimes
goes
find
hand
a
in
name
hand with the
that you
music.
can't
Though. It's
find.
like
Yeah.
a big nasty ass roach, and it's like
Right.
metal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
I-
yeah.
I will
And
tell
the
you
stories
that
behind them.
when you announced that the Roach Fest T-shirts came out, I was like, oh yeah, and then I saw it and I was like, oh no. I hate
Yes.
roaches. I
Oh yeah.
fucking hate roaches. So as soon as this one's a gnarly looking one too, I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
I will not be getting a T-shirt
You're right.
for
Well-
the cheers.
Kelly
We'll have a
did do
different
great,
one.
great on them shirts, so I
Yeah.
love them shirts.
No, they're great. They're
Yeah.
no,
Well,
don't
I
get
mean,
me
down the
wrong.
line.
They're fantastic shirts, but
Big
yeah.
shout out to Kiwi Co. That is the one that created those shirts,
Okay.
and she is a great artist.
Excellent.
And she has many of other kind of oddities and ends that she has at her merch vendor table that she
Okay.
will have there.
So yeah, I wanted to touch up on this because you guys do something unique to a lot of artists these days. Your merch and your packaging and how it's fantastic. Like
Thanks.
I'll show you after we're done here, but I kept the envelope that my RoachZilla
yeah.
shirt came in.
Yes.
I kept it because I was like, I have to do something with
Right.
this. This is really rad.
Right.
You
It's
you
more
guys put so much
personable.
care into it. I
Yeah.
really appreciate
Yeah.
that. As a fan, I truly appreciate
And
that.
when I first ordered those, I was like, it's either I have people that ask me just for those, just for the
Just
bubble
for-
mailers
yeah?
itself. But when I first ordered them, I was like, they're either gonna just toss it right away, or they're gonna keep it as a memento. So
Yeah.
I was.
That's what I did. I kept mine.
Yeah,
we
it looks
try
cool.
to put a lot of. I feel like the good thing about doing so much yourself as a band is you can put so much of your own ideas and thoughts into it, and people usually like just seeing that. We just always kind of
I like doing
let
weird
ourselves be
stuff that we can
ourselves.
think of.
Yeah, but it's cool because you're like when I got it in the mail, I was like, well, obviously I know what this is because it says it right there. But it's like this is. I was surprised, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, what do I? So I'm opening it up really careful with an X-Acto, so I can keep the bag. And,
Nice.
At least your mail carrier wasn't like, what is this?
Yeah.
Trash.
Are these roaches in here?
Yeah.
Throw that in the yard.
Our mail carrier is pretty cool.
And Ashley, or Bally DeVille, like I explained earlier, she does. She comes up with a lot of great ideas that we kind of run with. We did it for our last show that we did in Virginia Death Fest, but on our merch table that we will have at Roach Fest, we have little Old Bay necklaces.
Oh, excellent.
So it's little glass vials that she hand filled everyone with Old Bay.
Really?
And then a rope necklace that goes with them.
Well, I know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
If you don't want the roach shirt, you got
just
some
in
options
case.
at the
Or
table.
you
you
go
go
to
on
a house
vacation
where
and
somebody
they don't
can't
have any
season
Old Bay.
food.
That emergency.
You know?
Yeah,
You
gotta
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
little emergency
In
Case of
back.
emergency, break glass.
Emergency
But
Old
take the
Bay.
glass out of your food
It's
first.
always perfect.
Yeah, if you get a little bland something or other.
This has a nice crotch to it.
So, where do you find inspirations to write your songs? How does that process start for you all?
Usually it's Kody with a riff,
Yeah?
and
It's a lot of
we
it.
kind of build off that. Kody will have, like, sometimes it's just one riff, and we'll kind of build off that riff, or Cody has a whole song already written out, or at least the guitar part.
Yeah, he's
and we'll
very
put some music to it.
mastermind.
Aaron puts some words on it, and we'll kind of, we'll play around with it. Leave it alone, come back to it. It's different every song, really. I don't know. But that's usually the
Yeah, it
way
kind
it
of just
goes.
starts with a riff
Like-
somewhere.
If we're getting ready for a show and everything like that, we're all about trying to do our set list and everything. But when we know that we got like time, I guess, where they'll show up to practice and everything, I'll be like, let's just free jam.
Cool.
Like somebody just starts spatting a little riff off, and then we'll just throw something together. And if you find something that you like in the mix of it, you're like, all right, we'll take this off the mix and let's try and spin something off of that. And really, that's how a lot of our songs kind of came to be what they are, because we would do like a free jam, come with a certain riff, and then it turns into a song that is probably on our albums or that we play live. There's definitely ones that like Kody be like writing out the whole song, and we'll bring that into the mix, we'll start jamming on it, and then it's like, all right, let's try and switch this little part up or switch this part up. And once everything comes together, I figure out the flow of the song, and that's when my lyrics kind of start locking into place. I have a lot of stuff that I hang up on the walls around in our jam spot and everything like that, and there's a lot of stuff that have words, and I've always kind of been like a ad-lib kind of quick
Wow.
kind of person, so
Okay.
it's like I can read off a word and then it bounces different rhyming words or different words that would spin off of that into meanings, and then it's kind of just spinning into the mic until things form.
Okay.
And I usually, once I have everything formed and we jam the song a good bit of times, I'll take the time and I'm like, let me write these out because these will be the concrete lyrics for them. So
Yeah, I just kind of, I always love writing music, just the process of going from a riff or a jam session and how it goes from that into what it eventually becomes, full song, all the parts work together and all the transitions are smooth. So I just love writing music in general.
Okay.
So I'm always kind of thinking of, we might be in the middle of already writing one or two songs, but I'm already going to have more on the back burner. So as soon as it's time to write, it's like, here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea.
And I'm talking about a lot on the back burner.
I got a whole folder on my phone of songs that we haven't even used.
We've had since
if a stove could have 100 burners on it, there is plenty of them on the back.
Played live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just kind of constantly come up with stuff, just different grooves and what kind of comes to my mind. I kind of just go off of my own emotional standpoint of letting that kind of ride the wave of wherever that takes me that given day. And also, I guess, just whatever I've been listening to recently. I notice kind of whether it's subconscious or consciously taking influence. I notice things that I listen to kind of sneaking into my playing. Like, oh, I see where I got inspired by that, or where I heard something that gave me that idea. But I just kind of love writing and having riffs on standby. And I've been in projects where writing kind of gets to a halt sometimes, and I hate feeling like we're not writing or creating anything new, because when you're in the band, I feel like you play the songs endlessly so that they're always on recall, and you build the muscle memory. But as the band, it can be like, it's refreshing to share those songs with a newer audience or people that give you that energy back. But you can kind of get numb to certain songs as you played them over and over. So I'm like, let me get some new ideas, keep fresh things ready to come out of the pod, and just
keep spinning,
keep it fresh. Always something new.
You have 2 full lengths.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
So Uppercut was kind of you kind of did a Beyonce move where you're like, hey, we've recorded an album, right?
Yeah.
Right.
When did you decide that it was time to put Uppercut together?
I mean, we kind of did that for the first album as well.
Okay.
Our first album, Old Bay Metal, we were only a band about 5-6 months.
Holy shit.
Less than a year.
And
we released it during COVID, so it kind of ruined our whole.
It was right at the
there.
beginning.
Like, we're gonna have a whole release CD,
we had an
album
party,
release party show.
We've
all got
only been
canceled.
a band since 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2019, we came together in about spring, and by November was when we were locking in our songs that we wanted to record. And then I think by the beginning of January, we started in the studio, recorded. We recorded that whole album in 2 weekends.
Oh, wow.
Tight budget.
Yeah, tight budget, and we wanted it quick. So we went in one weekend, did the drums, did the guitars, and then the second weekend we did the guitars, threw in the bass, and locked everything in. And I did vocals on the last day, and then we did a mix.
Really quick mix.
Yeah.
So
that's why it's still pretty raw. That first album is more of like a. We didn't do it to a click or anything. It's just like what you get is what you get.
Sure.
But it's kind of nice, raw energy. We have kind of a natural,
just like one take,
good timing.
It's like, it's like I listen to it now and I'm like, damn it, I should have done that again.
That was part of the
tight budget, so
it's
like
to do another album.
But we were definitely trying to. I think at that time we were also trying to prove a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
And just have something available, because it's hard to be a band building a rep and they click on you and there's nothing to go by, like no music, no clips or anything. It's hard to sell yourself to any audience that might like see your name and be like, hey, let me check that band out. But there's nothing to see.
We played 2 shows.
Okay.
And then we were like, okay, the wintertime, usually we take off during the winter. So after December, we take off between January through March. And we don't do shows. That's usually our writing period, to where we like to get new songs together, everything of that sort. And sorry. So we went in and recorded that, and then we were just hot back on shows. And we played in 2020. There was definitely a weird year, but like we played the shows that we possibly could. And then in 2021, we like hit the ground running, played many
as
we
the
could.
gates were back open.
Where did you guys record Uppercut?
We recorded at Oblivion Studios with Mike Bozier and Upper Marble. Mike has been recording bands since the early 90s. and great dude, great atmosphere. Like
Yep.
you do not feel a lick of any
That studio
stress.
pressure
Sure.
that happens.
Like
Very good.
it's a very laid back atmosphere when you go in there, and he's just
just a good guy.
great dude.
Yeah,
Great
he'll add
times.
comments and stuff that at the right time. It's the
Uh-huh.
weirdest
Yeah.
thing. Like
Yeah.
most people, they might critique you in a weird way, and you kind of feel like,
Yeah, some people
leave me alone.
overstep.
But
Yeah.
this guy, like, I mean, he
He'd
just,
be like, "Are you sure about that? You know, are you
Yeah.
sure about this?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
well,
some
I,
people-
like
feel about
recording
that?
shouldn't be. You're already stressed because you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
we,
like, I
you
gotta
know,
nail this. You gotta
time is money, right?
Right,
For
yeah,
sure.
certainly.
So like, so that's awesome that he's.
yeah, he seems like he's always on the ball with like,
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
know, are you good with that? And you think about it for a second. No, I'm not. Like,
yeah,
Yeah, we like recording with him.
And I love that the cover of the album kind of archives now that
Yeah,
building
most
that's
certainly.
they've
That's
redone
not
it
there
and it's not
anymore.
there anymore.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was so upset. I drove by it the other day and I was like, oh no. What-
Yes.
it was a great building. It was a
Right.
good looking building.
I had probably a good bit of people message me and text me saying like, sending me pictures of them like tearing it down, the
Yeah.
building and everything, and I was like, I'm glad that we also DJ.
Yeah.
Hi
DJ.
Hi DJ. DJ is the one that did our artwork for that
Yes.
album, and I sent him an old picture as a reference, and he went off of it and executed it perfectly. And we always like to incorporate a bit of like where we're living and how we're living in these certain times, and as we move forward with things.
Well, and that's one thing, you know. That's one thing about, and I notice that a lot about bands down here. It's like, you guys are very proud of where you're from. You know,
Indeed.
you're very proud of, you know, giving it the Old Bay medal and
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind
of gives
you
it
know,
a
Southern
sense of,
Maryland
like, this is
community.
part of
Yeah.
the history, and I feel like it's always been, even going back to those community center days, like the music here is not just whatever is popular, you know,
Yeah.
like people
Absolutely.
are not
Yeah.
just following the popular music trends when they're in bands, no matter metal or otherwise,
Right.
you know.
And there's a little bit of everything for everybody,
Yeah.
Right.
and
Though-
which I absolutely love.
Though back in the day, it was a lot more of a competition.
Oh, yeah.
way
Yeah.
more.
No, I lived
Scene.
it.
Way more.
Yeah.
The
Like,
whole
and
battle of the
that's-
bands thing.
A lot of
Yeah.
times I don't like calling things scenes. I call things community.
Sure.
Because community definitely seems a lot more welcoming. Because
Yeah.
as I've seen throughout the years, scenes are not welcoming at all.
Yeah.
No. And
Like when we deal with other bands like on the road and everything like that, and they say, well, what is your scene like?
uh-huh.
And I say, well, we don't call it that.
Yeah.
Right.
We call it a
A
community.
community.
Because there's just so many different
Right.
bands around here that are very worthy of everybody's time.
Absolutely.
listening. Like,
Absolutely. I am so. You talk about that
Yeah.
you know, the competitive scene, right?
Yes.
Well, I lived it when I was in Yamu.
Mhm.
yeah.
It was like that.
Yeah,
Very very
like-
competitive.
Yeah.
And you're all trying to play a show, and it, you know, you all just want people to be there, and you want to play for people.
Right. And,
And-
you and I have talked about this, and
Yes,
and
most
you tell
certainly.
me that, you know, you want to see people happy.
Yes.
And I think that's-
like we're working 40 plus hours a week out here.
Right.
The state of what we're living in all countries all around the world right now, and you're kind of, you know, going to work, going home, waiting to die.
Yeah. Rinse,
Yep.
repeat.
And the
Rinse,
little
repeat.
things outside of that realm is what I think is the most beautiful thing that can be out there in the world,
Mhm.
is to for people to experience something different than just going to work and going home
Yeah.
and just wasting away your time.
And
Like,
you're doing it, man, because I look forward not only to the RoachZilla shows, but anything that you
Yeah.
you guys put together. You know,
Right, yeah.
I see Chris a lot out in town. You know, supporting everybody, and
I love live
He's
music,
a-
man.
he-
I like
he a
I like
busy
all
bee.
them.
Yeah.
But
Not
but
just
if
metal,
Popular
everything.
guy over there.
yeah.
very much so, but it's cool. Like, you know, Chris will come to
Yeah.
a blues show, and he'll come to a
Right.
open
Yeah.
mic, and
At
he'll
all of
come.
them.
You know, and you know, if your bandmates will allow me for a second, I have got to talk to you about the advocacy for community that you do. The comfort sessions, for example, they're some of my favorites.
I need to
those are
get
cool.
back on them. So when it comes, like, comfort sessions is an idea that I've had before I even started playing in bands again. Where you kind of see the uncut rawness of different bands. Like, so I go and see these bands on stage where they pick all their songs and they play them up there with the full band and everything like that. I was like, well, I want to see another song you created that people maybe not have heard or have heard it in this version.
Right.
And I have, like, shot music videos for local bands like Crow Hunter, Stone Brew. And I've always been kind of fascinated with, like, cameras and stuff like that to, like, create different things. And I have this old couch in my house, and I was like, what if I just take this couch and we put it in different places, and there's a coffee table that goes in front of it, and we just do different comfort sessions but in different areas of my yard, which is kind of a mess, but I've been keeping it that way so I can create certain different things.
I think it's perfect. It's like, it's so refreshing to see. It's like the vision that you had for what it looks like. I think I really liked the couch sitting in the middle of the yard, you know, the birds singing outside. I think it's all fantastic. And I really want to thank you for your leadership and everything that you do for the community. You know, you're an inspiration.
Well, you're an inspiration. I mean, for you to come into doing what you have in the local area and everything, where you're putting together these tribute shows and everything like that, it's beautiful to see, because you just have people that want to step out of the norm, step out of their regular work weeks and see something different. That I know it takes a lot of hard work, because we put together things that take a lot of hard work, and you should be commemorated for that.
Well, thank you for saying that. I feel like, you know, like I said, you inspire me to, like, hey, this is our music our music community is great, you know, and it needs to be seen, and people who are like, oh, there's posted that meme, I can't remember, a while back, but it said, you know, people in Southern Maryland saying there's nothing to do, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a free weekend. Like, I rarely have a free weekend, because there's a little bit of everything for everybody, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When it boiled down to when we first started back, because there was a battle, this is how crazy it was, where we had so many years where we weren't doing shows, and there was no scene at that time that they called it. But there was a little bar up in Dunkirk where they were putting together Battle of the Bands. So there's a whole bunch of bands showing up, and they're all competing.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where I met Muldar. That's where came together with, like, his other band, Coase. Everybody mixed them together, and from that moment on, when I started, I talked to Joe and Glenn again. I haven't seen them probably 8 years, maybe 10 years. And at that point in time, where I was like, I remember going to a show in Baltimore, and it was a show that Stone Brew was playing, where Kody was playing bass with them.
Okay.
I asked John Wayne, why don't y'all do any shows in Southern Maryland? And first thing out of his mouth, there's nothing in Southern Maryland anymore. There's nothing for us in Southern Maryland anymore. There's no scene. There's no shows. And I was like, well, why don't we figure it out?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
you gotta build it
that's
yourself sometimes.
what happened, and the rest is where we are today.
Right.
So.
And that's kind of how Southern Maryland music scene started too, because it was like,
Sparked a
hey,
lot.
you know, like, I know there's stuff going on here, like, but I haven't found it.
Started, you know?
Yeah.
What really, like, I thought about this the other day, and so how we've always had cover bands at the forefront of music in this area to where I was literally counting all the venues that I have brought original shows to, that my crew and people and all of us have brought original shows through. And we've been in just about every place around here. And it's wild to me, because it's a lot of times you got to kind of show your worth to these places.
Yeah.
Like cover bands, you have a guarantee already when you're walking in the door. Us is like,
you got to fight for it.
Give us a trial, pay
Yeah.
for my sound guy for that night, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And
Give us a chance.
a lot of times we're coming back.
On that note, though, I am seeing more and more venues who are wanting original music, and
Most certainly.
and that's just a testament to what you all do.
Some are even shifting to where they want to
Yes.
Yeah.
original music.
Correct. We're having such a great renaissance right now, I think.
Most certainly.
Definitely.
And you know, just I love the bills where it's like you could like we'll just let the cat out of the bag here. Dan Tellis and I had an idea. We're joking around, but the idea grew from
Right.
just, you know, us joking around about doing a festival where it basically starts with Coast is Clear,
Right.
right? Move to RoachZilla,
Yeah.
Maldire, The Pink Dream, and then your, you know, Last Known Yeti, Intentionally Blank, Runaway Guns.
Right.
And there's one person from a band before that always stays through.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and Charlie's gonna kill me for saying this on the podcast because he hates the name, but you know, call it Cessfest.
Hey.
You know, like
It would work
even
out.
to where
Very
like
well.
it's that battle of the bands, like that first one. I played 3 sets
Yes,
at that first
3
battle of the
different
bands.
bands.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, there were so few people involved back then. There was so much of like crossover between
Yeah.
somebody's in
Yeah.
multiple bands, which I always wanted to have one for each instrument that I played. But
that's cool.
I
That
think
would be
when
really
it,
cool.
When it came down to it, is that when things started picking up a lot of more people felt more comfortable to come into the mix.
Sure.
And a lot of people were like, all right, well, we'll bring this band through. And like I've gotten to a point where it's like I have bands coming from a lot of different places. We've had a band come up from Florida on their tour.
Sure.
We've had I have a band coming next weekend from New York.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, and they're on tour right now. They're in Tennessee. So it's kind of bringing a lot of different things into the mix and into the picture, and it's just wild to see.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it
So
for
getting
the most part.
for the most part.
Like when
I know,
my
yeah.
mind
At the
lets
end.
me
Well,
enjoy it.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're putting the show together, so
Yeah.
I get it. You know, I definitely identify with that. So getting back to Uppercut, I want to hear which songs in Uppercut are your favorite. And we can start with you, Aaron.
I don't like any of them. No, I'm playing.
Album sucks.
So there's a distinction. Which one's your favorite, and which one you are the most proud of?
Okay. So my favorite song would probably be Uppercut for me.
Okay.
It's got a lot of energy behind it. I feel like I have, every time we play it, it kind of is a stress relief to me.
Yeah.
And I've always enjoyed it because I speak on a different subject in that song that was kind of near into my mind, that I was like, this is finally something that I could get out. And I enjoy that. Was that my favorite?
You said
And
that
then-
was your favorite.
See,
and then
you
what
can't
was the
change it.
second
Which
part?
one's the one? Which one is the one that you're the most proud of?
I think the most proud of for me, it actually splits between two. It would be either New Breed or Jim Jones offered me
Jim Jones.
Grape
I love that
Flavor Aid,
title,
but I'm
but-
more of a cherry guy.
Right. Say it again so that
Jim Jones offered me Grape Flavor Aid, but I'm more of a cherry guy.
I love that
And,
title.
Now, that song to me was also touched on a sensitive subject that I could finally get out. And I think just between the music behind it, it kind of carried itself so well to come together to where it's like now this is a stress relief every time that we're playing it.
Yeah.
It's something that I can finally try and like just close chapters.
Sure.
So
I do. I like
Yeah.
Jim Jones. Not the guy, but the song.
yeah, nobody likes Jim Jones. If you like Jim Jones, you're the problem.
You're in the wrong.
Yes, sir. Chris?
Oh, me?
Yes.
My favorite's definitely Buried
Mm.
by far. It's like they probably already knew I was going to say that. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, every
I
time
knew
we're making
for a
a set
fact he
list,
was
I'm
gonna
like,
say
I'm
that.
going to put Buried on there.
Yeah.
Come on.
Put it in the set.
It's I don't know. It's just my favorite. It's like starts all kind of slow and then it gets heavier. It's faster later in the song.
Yeah.
It's my favorite song to play. I love the song.
Awesome.
It's just awesome. It's a
I'm gonna-
badass song.
I'll play off what you're gonna say. Just the general,
Yeah.
the largeness of
Yeah.
that song.
Yeah.
It's just
I really tried to hit home in
Yeah.
the studio. I wanted that song to sound huge.
Yeah.
But I just like all the different things in the song.
Yeah.
And it's different than like a normal just heavy hitting like fast
A little more
song.
dynamic.
Yeah. That's my favorite and the one I'm most proud of. Honestly.
Cool.
So.
yeah.
Cody?
Yeah.
I guess Jim Jones is probably the one that ended up being my favorite. I guess I was proud of the riffs on it and
Yeah.
the way everything turned out with it. I don't know. I really tried to make everything on the album be the best I could make it.
Sure.
I did those guitars mostly in like a 7-hour nonstop session with Mike.
Wow.
And I was just like into the session and into getting it the tightest I could, getting the best tone for this album, trying to one up everything from before.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was one of those songs that made it feel like I successfully did that, for me.
I also really enjoy the song When You Die You Respawn at the nearest
Fast
best
Stop is my other favorite,
Yeah.
but we haven't played it live as much. But
Yeah,
I do
that's-
love how that song flip.
You played it the
carries.
last time I saw you all, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, we
And
started to.
That's
you-
the first time we played that song was a complete flop.
Yeah.
Like, it was like
Yeah.
And we missed a cue and it just didn't go over well, and I was like, we're done. We're
It was
done.
bad.
We're not respawning.
We're done.
Yeah.
Move on.
We just had to
We're
take
good.
it back to the workshop a little bit.
It's also because we did a collaboration with that one with RJ Bunda of Alica, and great dude. He came down and did the verses for us, and me and him kind of in the studio. He was like telling me a little bit about his lyrics, and we were bouncing back and forth, and we kind of just built up a lot of the song right there on the spot.
Wow.
So we knew what our basis was for it, but we just started, chopping it up together, and he did amazing on the song, and his lyrical content is like right where mine was, and it was perfect. But we can also see why it would be a little bit hard doing live,
Yeah.
because me and him are different,
It is
vocal.
Which I think
Okay.
that was a cool aspect in the
Yeah.
song of how you can tell the different vocal styles
Yeah.
are enough to where they work together, but you can tell it's two different approaches
Okay.
play off of
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah,
Well, they are playing at Roach Fest. Maybe we can actually play it live.
it's possible.
Ooh, are you gonna do it?
We don't know. We haven't even
Yeah.
talked about it.
That would be.
Well,
Hey, look at Chris.
Thumpwood already wrote out our
I'm just
set
now
list,
putting
and
that
that song
together
was
in my
not
mind.
there.
it could
So-
change. Hey.
Yeah.
It's still time. A little bit of time.
Still time.
All right, so, I really wish we would have recorded this episode before Roach Fest. But aside from Roach Fest, what is next for RoachZilla?
Well, I think.
Don't look at me.
Hey,
Well, that's where we get into the sour.
We'll have to talk on this subject. So, at the moment, Thumpwood back here is extending his life down into Florida soon.
Yeah.
And when we love you to death.
Yeah,
Absolutely love you to death.
I'm moving to the next chapter of my life.
Yes.
And,
And
this
Bittersweet?
Yeah, and I hate talking about it. And I told them, like, can we just not, but not
Like,
here, but I mean, just like all in general. I was like, please don't
right.
make me feel like I'm
We
leaving,
boys,
because I don't
like-
like goodbyes. I hate it.
Yeah.
But it isn't goodbye.
That's
It's
hard.
more like he said, it's more of like an extent. If they want me to record bass down there remotely or do
Yes.
something like that, I'm all ears.
But with that being in the mix, and he has told us that he has given us to the end of July.
Yeah. So the end of this month.
So
yeah.
we have July 15th at Roach Fest.
Mm-hmm.
We have July 29th at a show up in Dundalk, Maryland.
Okay.
And that's like a whole wrestling ordeal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
there's like wrestling in between matches and
beef,
everything.
beer, and beatdowns or
Yeah.
something.
beef, beer, and beat down.
That's what it's called.
But after that, we will definitely be taking a slight hiatus.
Sure.
So we had a show
Reorganize.
booked for the end of August, Southern Maryland SummerSlam at the Tavern, and I have pulled us off of that show.
You're bowing out of that.
Yes. For that moment, we can look for a new basis and get everybody into the mix and everything like that, and go to our next chapter into the
Sure.
mix. Indeed.
And like Mark said, it's not goodbye. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the
So-
next chapter for everybody.
Next chapter for everybody.
I
feel
hate
like
it, but it's like
yeah.
the 4 years or so that we put in so far has definitely been, I think, some of the best band experiences I've had. So it's like, without Mark, we wouldn't have gotten to where we are. His contributions to the music and everything.
we thank you.
So
Yeah.
Well, I thank you guys for
it's
being great
definitely
friends.
gonna, and it makes it work. I always kind of envision wanting this to be a 4-piece, just kind of traditional, classic. Everybody
Yeah.
carries their weight, but us playing bass, we've always wanted to make sure the bass was a prominent part of the music,
Most certainly.
as just as we are. Metal can be very like guitar centered, which obviously I write a lot of riffs and everything for the music, but always want to have that bass line, and what he brings and their connection and the rhythm section has been really cool to be a part of working with them writing music for the last few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be an interesting change, but it's been a hell of a ride so far.
For sure.
And, we're going to carry the momentum forward, regardless.
Yeah, I told
Y'all-
I told everybody, I was like, don't stop. Please don't stop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like,
no, you
just
can't.
don't.
Now-
You can't
This
stop.
is the
Here-
passion project.
Here at your podcast, you're interviewing us. You're actually the first to know of this,
Yeah.
and
Thank you for trusting me with that.
Indeed, and we have kept it under wraps for a little while now, and let that be known that we're looking for bases, and we love our old bases very much. So
if you could just be a clone of me, that
yes,
It's big shoes to fill.
just
What-
know you got to have the chops.
Yeah, you got to have the chops, and you gotta mesh well. Because I mean, I wish you luck, because this is gonna be. I mean, hopefully you get lucky, and
Yeah, most certainly.
you know.
Yeah, I still feel good
Yeah,
about
y'all
what's
will
coming.
find.
It's just that
absolutely.
initial
Yeah, we'll
finding
figure
the
it
right
out.
mix.
I mean, we
definitely hit home finding everybody the way we did
gonna be
Right.
weird.
These-
in the
I've
initial.
always played in bands with this guy,
Yeah.
so it'd be weird playing with
Yeah,
on other
different
bases.
vibe.
Yeah, I don't know.
In
I mean,
these
I've jammed
past
with
4
other bases,
years
but-
that we have been a band, we have done a lot as a band.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have played numerous of festivals. Some were on international level, like you know, Blue Ridge and stuff
Yep.
like that. And we've got 2 albums under our belt, and
And the single.
And a shit ton of memories, I'm
yeah,
sure.
so many
Yeah.
memories. So
Yeah.
it's just
Train don't stop.
chapters.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just
Well-
getting off the train. That's all.
Yeah.
So
With your little.
I gotta
bindle.
jump really
Yeah,
really
with your
hard.
bindle.
because,
Yeah, a little stick
parachute
in
or
the
something.
bundle.
Yeah.
Stick in bundle.
well, congratulations to you, Mark.
Yes.
Wish you the best.
Yeah, it's
And
bittersweet. It's,
whatever,
it's
I'm
great
sure.
and it's bad. You know,
I'm
like,
sure it is.
Eat
thi-
some
hard
gator
this-
tail down
This
there.
band was keeping me here,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying like something changed with you guys because it didn't, but
Yeah,
it's just moving on.
Those things
you know?
happen.
Yeah, most certainly.
life.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
it is.
indeed.
For sure.
Indeed.
For sure. Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to come sit with me. This
Yes,
is
certainly.
I've enjoyed
Absolutely.
this quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a
Good time.
And you know, hopefully you don't take too long of a hiatus,
Yeah, most
and
certainly.
we can go
Yeah.
Yeah.
get into the mosh pit
I mean, we're
again
hoping
here
to
soon.
Bounce
Yeah.
back
Hell
ASAP.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, brother.
just a matter of figuring out who it's gonna be.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, we're still gonna be trucking along and doing what we do.
Yeah.
And you definitely won't see us not in the mix.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
like-
sure.
We're
I'm
still
sure
gonna
not.
be throwing up different memes and cracking
Yeah.
dumbass jokes that we always have. So it's like,
Absolutely.
you know, we'll be out here.
But on a personal note, I want to thank you for, you know, we were talking earlier off camera about how when I go see a metal show, I feel like so refreshed for days after because
Yeah.
you all take all that chaos. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you my
It's a
chaos.
great, like,
Right.
healthy outlet.
Exactly.
for all
I'm just
that
up there
negative.
like
I'll give it to
What
you,
is it?
and I can just rest for.
Shang Tsung
Yeah.
from Mortal Kombat. I'm like,
beauty of
give me
it.
your
Some
rage.
people, it's like they don't really
Yeah.
They don't see it from that angle of how it helps people release that
Sure.
negativity. Like,
Yeah.
I definitely know that helps all of us. Like, it's part of why this music hits as
Yeah.
hard as it does. This is kind of where it all goes to. So.
Absolutely.
Listening to it, playing it, it's all the same. It's a great stress reliever.
It's
Yeah.
part of why I love it so much. And I was telling Aaron, you know, it's two genres, and Chris, 2 genres of music that do that for me is metal and jazz.
Yeah.
And
Both chaos.
both chaos,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You know, I'll give it to you, and you let me rest for 45
Yeah.
minutes to an hour, and I'm good to go for
Yeah.
three,
I
4
think,
days.
Exactly.
we always bring it up, and it's kind of like an inside joke. But there was one show that we did, and I was like, "Do y'all feel it? Do you feel it in your fucking chest?"
Yeah.
And now, every now and then, we're like, if somebody brings up feeling something, we're like, you feel it in your fucking chest. So
Yeah.
Right on.
Feel it,
Yeah.
Mr. Krabs.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it from
you.
the bottom of my heart.
Yeah.
thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Fuck. Sorry, I should.
No, that's great. That's perfect.
Are we live again?
All right.